For decades, we've thought about technology as a tool. It's something we pick up, use for a task, and then put down. But what happens when that tool disappears? What happens when it becomes the room you're standing in? We are living through one of the biggest shifts in computing, and it means we need a completely new way to think. So, how do we even begin to get our heads around this new reality? Let's break it down. So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll really define this huge shift from tool to environment. Then, we'll look at a new lens for understanding it all. After that, we'll explore how human and machine intelligence are starting to merge. And finally, we'll get into the massive implications for how we build and, maybe more importantly, govern these new systems. All right, let's start with the core idea here. This isn't just another upgrade. This is not a faster processor or a better app. We're talking about a totally different category of technology. And just look at the contrast here. It's night and day. On the left, that's the world we all grew up with. You start a program, you do your thing, and then you're done. It's episodic. But on the right, that's our new reality. It's an intelligent environment that is always on, it's everywhere, and it's woven right into our lives. This new reality has a name. It's called Ambient Intelligence, or AMI for short. It's basically technology that's been woven into the very fabric of our spaces. So think about something like a smart tele-rehabilitation system in a patient's home. You've got sensors and actuators that are constantly monitoring and guiding their physical therapy. It all happens seamlessly, without the person ever having to consciously boot up a program. So here's the most important point to get. We have to stop looking for the intelligence inside a single box or device. It's not in the phone, it's not in the speaker. The intelligence is now a property of the entire system, the whole arrangement of sensors, code, and, this is key, our own behaviors and routines within that space. It's become the substrate we operate on. We can actually break this environment down into 3 layers. So at the bottom, you have the physical stuff, the sensors that perceive the world and the actuators that can act on it. Then, in the middle, you have the brains of the operation, the AI, the reasoning modules that interpret all that data and adapt. But that top layer, that's the most important one of all, human practices. Because without us, without people, the system is just data-rich, but completely meaningless. It has no purpose. Okay, so if the world has changed this much, we're going to need a new set of glasses to see it clearly, right? Our old mental models just won't cut it. That new lens is something called Cognitive Adaptation Studies, or CAS. Let's just quickly look back at that old world one more time. We're all used to what's called episodic computation. I mean, think about writing a document in Word. You open the app, you write, you save, and you close it. That interaction has a very clear beginning and a very clear end. But ambient intelligence creates something totally different, what's called a persistent cognitive presence. The system is always there, always on, always sensing, always learning, and it just completely blurs the line between using a piece of tech and simply living with it. We're not just users anymore. We are literally inhabitants of these intelligent spaces. And this leads us to the next really critical idea, this merging of human thinking and machine thinking into what is basically a single unified system. So on one hand, you have us, human cognition. We operate on lived context, on emotion, on subjective experience. We are the source of all meaning. And on the other hand, you have synthetic cognition. This is what machines do incredibly well, processing insane amounts of data, finding patterns, manipulating symbols. It's incredibly powerful, for sure, but it lacks any real understanding. And this highlights a core principle that you have to remember. No matter how powerful or smart the system gets, the ultimate meaning, the intent, the purpose, the why behind it all, that always resides with us. The context lives in the human. The system can have all the data in the world, but we're the ones who provide the story. So these two types of cognition, they don't just exist side by side. They become coupled. They actually form a single cognitive ecology, where our thinking and the system's processing get all intertwined. And that creates a brand new, hybrid way of making decisions and acting in the world. Okay, this brings us to the final and maybe the most important part of all this. If intelligence is now an environment that we live in, how in the world do we govern it? Well, the answer is we have to stop thinking of it as software. This table just lays out the difference so clearly. With software, interaction is something a user starts, and it's episodic. In a cognitive environment, it's continuous and ambient. The role of us, of humans, it shifts from being an operator of a tool to being a co-participant whose very presence changes how the system behaves. Agency is no longer just with the user, it's distributed between human and machine.
So the crucial takeaway, the big idea is this. Ambient intelligence is not a product. It's not a feature, it is infrastructure. And we have to start treating it with the same seriousness and foresight as we treat our roads, our water systems, and our power grids.
And why is that metaphor so perfect? Well, think about it. Just like public infrastructure, these intelligent environments, they operate continuously. They invisibly shape our behavior every day. They present massive systemic risks if they fail. And because of all that, they demand public oversight, really robust safety rules, and clear lines of accountability. And for anyone out there who's actually building these things, a founder, an engineer, this probably sounds really familiar. The source material points out that it's the operators who are on the front lines feeling this friction every single day. You're the first to see that the old tool-centric ways of thinking are just breaking down.
And here's the ultimate warning. If we keep applying our old mental models to build these new environments, we risk creating systems that look really efficient on the surface, but underneath, they are silently eroding our own understanding, our own agency, and our sense of responsibility.
So I'll leave you with this question, one that every leader and builder in technology really needs to be asking themselves right now. Take a hard look at what you're creating. Are you simply building another tool? Or are you, maybe without even realizing it, building an environment that people will have to live inside? Because the answer to that question, well, it changes everything.